American baseball player Robert II once said, quote, respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you, grows you, or makes you happy, end quote. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the first episode of Chasing the Dream. This is a podcast that I'm starting. My name is Lily Mihailovich. I'm 20 years old. I'm a college student here at San Diego State. I just moved to San Diego from Los Angeles, and I really wanted to start a podcast for the longest time, but it's kind of known as the trendy thing to do. Like, everyone and their mom has a podcast, whatever. But I really like taking in long form content just because I feel like there's less pressure as it's a longer form, if that makes sense. Like podcasts, you just sit and talk versus YouTube videos. I love doing YouTube, don't get me wrong, and I've been doing it for a while now, but it has to be very engaging, like every second of the video, if that makes sense, because there always has to be images going on or you saying something and then visuals to go along with it. There's just always so much happening, and I think as time goes on and technology continues to progress, there's more pressure to create super high quality content, even though, you know, it really is an art and you have to sit down and learn it and like really teach it to yourself. But I was very intrigued with the idea of starting a podcast because it is long form content, but I don't have the pressure of putting visuals up, even though there is a visual aspect to this podcast and I love podcasts with that. So I wanted mine to include it. What was really daunting about the whole thing was just the startup cost and teaching myself how to podcast, essentially. But the reason I got this opportunity and I decided to embark on it starting this past August in 2023 was because SDSU has a studio where you can record. It's called the Backdoor Studio. That's where I'm recording right now. And it's free for all students to use. You can use it max like 3 times a semester. And I don't have to go through the pain of buying all this junk to record a podcast. They set it all up for me. They show me how to use a couple buttons and then I just go for it, which is what I really like about it. And that's the reason I had the opportunity to do this now. Now we're going to get into the first part of the podcast, which is why did I start this besides, oh, this was just an idea kind of floating in my head for the past 2 years? Because everybody and their mother has a podcast nowadays. And I know that's the running joke everywhere, but I got kind of reeled into the idea of interviewing people when I interviewed Giselle Ibarra for an article that is getting published very soon, or at the time that this is released, the article will be published. I interviewed her and we talked about one of her paintings and the fact that it was a tribute to Salvador Dali and then the contrasting parallels between his work. So it was a fascinating article. I really liked it. It was presented nationwide at the Johns Hopkins University to Irvine, and I hope to present it at an upcoming conference at SDSU, but then also come up with something new because my head is just so filled with ideas and I just wish I had more time to embark on them, or at least a team, you know, someone to go do my dishes at home so I could go and like record a podcast or go and interview someone or write a book. You know, there's all these things I want to do in my life and I'm 1,000% going to hop on all of them. It's just going to take me some time and discipline and very diligent planning. So when I went and I interviewed Giselle 11 months ago or 12 months, something around that. Oh, you know, I remember it was 14 months. I interviewed her last December. We were supposed to interview in October and then just getting pushed back. But we eventually did it last December and the interview went great. It was two and a half hours roughly. We did it at her studio in San Diego. I drove from LA to do it, very sleep deprived from a conference, but it was really fun. And the only thing that was tough about it was I didn't realize how hard it is to interview people. You guys, I have so much more respect for podcasters now because it really is an art to sit down and to get to know somebody and, you know, to get them to be vulnerable in front of somebody that they barely know or potentially millions of people, you know, because the interviewee doesn't know who this is going to be broadcasted to. You know, it's a lot to kind of open up to some podcaster that you barely know and there's some public figure or whatever. So it was a very humbling moment. And I realized last December I wasn't ready to start the podcast quite yet. So that's why I didn't go out and buy all the equipment and whatnot. I wanted to just do more reading and like learn how to interview people. That was the main thing. I didn't want to start by being a bad interviewer. So I gave it some time, and I think there's a really big difference between people with great ideas and people with mid ideas and ambition, because there are a lot of people out there who you meet them and they have such excellent ideas and all these things that they want to do, but they never act on them, or they're lazy and they decide to settle in life. And I'm a firm believer of this because I've seen it happen. But for me, at least, I think that my ideas are kind of mid sometimes. Like, you're going to start a podcast? What? But I have the ambition and the drive to actually go and do it. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are plenty of people out there with way better ideas than me, but they just sit back and let it waste away, which I think is really sad. But the people that make it are truly the ones that, you know, maybe their ideas or whatever, but they go out and they try it and they do it time and time again. They work on something for years and then eventually it takes off because they've worked on it for so long, and it goes from kind of a whatever idea to something great, you know? So that's why, you know, I'm such a believer in that. And you can have great ideas but have zero ambition in life and just decide to settle, and, you know, you're going to look back in 80 years and go, wow, like, what could have happened if I chased my wildest dream or embarked on this ambition that is known to not make money, quote unquote. But if you really went at it, you could have made even more money than you did at your day job. So if you have good ideas, just go and chase them. People always say, like, I'm going to wait till the new year. I'm going to wait till, you know, fall comes around, or winter, or my birthday, whatever. No, just start now. Because if you don't start now, you're never actually going to act on it. Now we're going to get into part 2, why I really left my hometown, which is what you're all here for. So I guess we'll start with why San Diego. I'm looking down just because I have a timeline of everything that happened, and there's just so much, you guys. There's so much I have to talk about, and I just need to hit all my talking points. So in summer 2021, I met an investment banker who lived a city over from me in LA. We dated for a couple of months, and then he committed to University of San Diego, USD, down here, and then he moved. I'd never been to San Diego, and I was kind of for the idea of cutting him off and just, okay, well, we're going to be in different cities. What's the point? But, you know, he invited me to come and visit. So I came out with one of my girlfriends one weekend. I got dinner with him literally right below our Airbnb. Got some Italian food. It was really good. And he just moved into a place. And then that weekend, my friend and I explored San Diego. He was really busy. Like, this fool worked 60 hours a week. He was in school. It was crazy. I never had time to see him. But after that first time when we got dinner and I saw San Diego, I found myself coming back, not to see him because, like I told you, he was so busy. He didn't have time to see me, even though I'd, you know, make a commute all the way out here. But I would come down here with friends and I would explore different parts of San Diego every time I was here. So I'd get an Airbnb in La Jolla and then spend time in La Jolla. That's what I did with Haley. One day I came down with my best friend Jade, which I love her and miss her. I hope she's doing good. I haven't talked to her in a while. But we came down for a day trip. I remember we came down for a day trip and we went to Balboa Park or something. And then I also came down here with Kiara, I think 2 or 3 times. We went ice skating, went shopping, hiking, just did the whole shebang. She loved coming down here because she has family in Escondido. So we would go visit her family on the way to central San Diego and on the way back to LA. So I always had friends who were always down to come, who were always down to come and visit and just tag along with me. And I was like, hey, I'll drive, just pay for food when you're here. And they're like, okay, cool. So they take like a day or 2 off of work and it was fun. But I just fell in love with San Diego for that coming year. So from fall 2021 to fall 2022, I decided SDSU was my top choice in transfer colleges. So in fall 2022, when the transfer applications opened for fall 23, is when I applied to state, and I had to play a waiting game. It was so tough to play the waiting game because people were hearing back from their transfer decisions as early as that December, and state took the longest, and I didn't hear until March 2023. So what happened was I was at a conference at the East Coast. I was invited back to the Johns Hopkins University to present again. Oh my gosh, I need to get into Hopkins, first of all. Like, that period of my life was so interesting. But my acceptance happened when I was up for like 23 hours, something crazy. I woke up really early. I flew across the country. I hung out with some friends. We ordered takeout. And then I came back to my hotel room. I took took an Uber, and then I was sitting on the toilet, just going on Reddit. And at the top of my Reddit feed, it says from the transfer admissions page, the SDSU decisions are out. You guys, I didn't even have to go to the bathroom anymore. I got up, I went to my computer, I propped up my camera, and I knew I was going to get in. And then I got in and I started bawling my eyes out. I think it was 11:30, 12 at night. I called almost everybody I knew except for my parents. I just wanted to keep them waiting for some reason, but I told all my friends and whatnot. And then eventually I called my parents and I was like, I did what I said everyone said I couldn't do. Ha, like, I'm going to San Diego. They were low-key anti me going to San Diego because it felt so far and they wanted me to stick to a transfer college in Los Angeles, but I knew that ultimately wouldn't make me happy. So that's why San Diego State was my top choice. The reason I kind of had a problem with LA was not because of the people. I think that's a big reason people hate LA. LA is really rich and there's so much to it, you know, and I think there are like genuine people out there. It's just influencers get caught up with their fake transplant realm and then they tell everyone, oh my God, LA sucks because everyone's so fake, but it's not. It really isn't. I just didn't like my life in Los Angeles. I think it's tough because you can't grow in a place that created the version of yourself that you're trying to outgrow. I couldn't become essentially a stronger, bigger, better person and a changed version of myself in a place that produced such a sad Lily, you know? I was a waitress at a nursing home and I went to this junior college that was super left-wing and not rigorous at all. I do not feel prepared to be a student here at State. And it's really hard. Like the adjustment from literally not studying and working 40 hours a week to studying 40 hours a week and having to cut back on working is just so different for me. But it's a period of adjustment. We'll get into that later. My school is also really depressing. The art building did not have windows. The art building, the math building had more windows than the art building. Can somebody, like the math isn't mathing right now, but our windows were all boarded up. It was underground. How can you like college when college looks like that? You know, so I think I kind of have some leeway in the sense that I really wasn't happy going to college and I didn't think I liked college when I was there. So I was really desperate to transfer outside of Los Angeles. I did apply to 3 schools in LA, granted, and then the only one that was outside of LA was San Diego State. I didn't apply to the UC system because I don't like the quarter system, and UCs are even more rigorous than CSUs. I don't want to have a reading schedule, bro. Like, that is crazy. So I didn't apply to the UCs, and I was a lot happier with State than UC San Diego. I think it's a very different vibe. Both my roommates went to UC San Diego, and they weren't 100% with it. I mean, for what they studied, UC San Diego was great for it, but SDSU is probably one of the second best schools I could have chose. Because what happened, you guys, when I got admitted to State and I announced it to everybody, the department at my junior college was so upset. I kid you not, they're like, oh, you fumbled. You should have went to Berkeley to study art history. Ancient art history was what I was focusing in on at the time. And they're like, you fumbled the best school you could have gone to. Not that it made me doubt my decision, but I was just like, damn, everyone hates that I chose San Diego. You know, my parents weren't the happiest about it. They just didn't get it. They've never been down here. They've never seen San Diego State or even North Park where I live now. So they were just like, why do you need to go so far away? School is here. Why do you need to leave, you know? Because I grew up with immigrants, and immigrants are very keen with keeping their kids at home as long as they can just because of the state of the economy right now. And I totally get it. You know, they're really trying to look out for me, but I just needed to be on my own, and I knew that's what would make me happy. Now, the one good thing that came out of junior college was my modern art professor suggested that I apply to the Johns Hopkins University Research Humanities Collaboratory. He explained to me, I know it seems like a long shot, this is a top 10 school, but it's aimed at community college students, and you have a really good proposal for a Persian art presentation that I was talking to him about. I was like, oh, I want to do research on this, but I don't know where I can do that. He said, this is perfect. Just be very confident in the way you present it, be over prepared, nail the interview, and I think you'll have a good shot at it. So I got through 2 stages of interviews. I never met the director, which was crazy because she had to vet everyone that went in the program. She read about me, she saw my application, but she didn't hop on the Zoom call when I guess she was supposed to. And what was so crazy, you guys, she ended up leaving the program midway through because she had a baby, but then she also left to go work at Amazon. She never finished what she started, which was a really big drama thing that happened during the program. The program was crazy, you guys. Like, I kid you not, it was an experience. I still haven't mentally recuperated from the whole thing, but in a good way. You know, it was just so fun, and I produced great research while I was there, and it set me up for success when I did research moving forward from Johns Hopkins. Even though San Diego State was my top choice for transfer, I had a desire to live on the East Coast for the longest time, but I've never been to the East Coast except for Florida. But I don't know if that counts as the East Coast, you know, the top right part of this country. So I knew the weather was definitely brutal, but there are such cool schools up there, and that's where all the Ivy Leagues are. That's where good work is produced. That's where the dissertations that eat are written. So I had a really strong desire to go out there. And then when I got into Hopkins, I was like, this is perfect. You know, I can go visit all these schools and then see if I'm going to add them to my list of applications for transfer. And if I fell in love with Columbia, I loved Columbia. I fantasized about Columbia for the longest time. And I was like, well, if I fall in love with Columbia, I'll just say screw it and go to New York City or something. So I think it was really good that I went out there. I lived in Baltimore. Baltimore was a really depressing city, I'm not going to lie. The apartment I lived in, my roommate was amazing. Her name is Joy. Joy, if you're watching this, I miss you. And she was the best person I could have roomed with while living there, because when we first moved in, we were pretty chill. We just didn't talk to each other much. We were both a little bit introverted. And then as the program went on, we became a lot closer. We developed a very, very tight-knit group of friends, which are all being invited to my wedding one day. I love and miss all of you so much, and I wish you success on your adventures nowadays. But while I was there, I toggled between being insecure studying the humanities and imposter syndrome. We had a conversation about imposter syndrome. I remember one time at Hopkins, we all sat down and just had a table conversation about it. And a lot of us didn't feel we deserved to even be at the program, to be doing research, even though they chose us. And, you know, we were all vetted, essentially, and we still didn't feel very deserving of it. Like, why am I doing research at a top 10 university? I'm not even of a legal drinking age. That's crazy. And the fact that we went out and presented at the LANS, the Leadership Alliance, a national conference for research with people top 10 university, it was just crazy. You know, we just did not feel like we deserved it. But it took a little bit of time, and I think some of us got over our imposter syndrome a little bit. But I still felt a lot of insecurity studying the humanities, because every time I told people I studied art history, I would get so much backlash for it. Just, what are you going to do with that? That's the immediate response. I did a social experiment at work one time. Sometimes older tables will ask, you know, are you in school? You know, are you just working? Like, what are you doing in life? And I'll say, oh yeah, I'm studying art history. The immediate response was always, what are you going to do with that? How much money do you, like, what? But when I would tell people, I did an experiment. So I would tell them I studied nutrition half the time. And then when I got the nutrition response, they would say, oh, good for you, kiddo. You're going places in life. Not immediately questioning it, you know, and giving me something for it. Because you guys, most people go to college and don't end up using their degree for what they studied, you know? So it's the fact that I'm still getting the same degree and I'm still studying the same amount. I do the same amount of homework, but it's because it's a degree of fine arts is when it becomes a problem. And, you know, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to make money. You're going to be homeless. That is so extreme, because research positions are very coveted in our society and necessary. It just baffled me how disrespectful some people could be towards art history majors. You guys, the director at the Johns Hopkins Humanities program right now, I believe, she is an art history doctorate. I remember I met her when I went to present back in March this year. And she's a very new to the faculty. And I remember I was telling one of my old directors that I was leaving. I said, hey, I have to head out. I'm flying out to Irvine for another conference today. She said, there's someone I need you to meet. And then I shook hands with the director, and she's like, oh, she also studies art history. If you ever want to get your doctorate here at Hopkins, we're very open to letting you in the program. You know, I have to go through the application, whatnot, and everything. But to see somebody that successful studying my major just gave me some hope that I do have a lot of potential with my degree, and this is not a useless major, quote unquote. Natalie Goldberg has a really good book called Writing Down the Bones. This is a required reading for one of my classes this semester. And this quote truly has always kept me going because, yeah, I'm studying something that's uncertain, but I know and I trust in my heart that I'm always going to be okay. And she quotes, trust in what you love, comma, continue to do it, comma, and it will take you where you need to go, end quote. Seeing this at the beginning of the semester, after, you know, committing to San Diego, moving out to this really expensive city and committing to state, like really living on my own, even though our history is a little bit more of an uncertain major, it's not a set path like going to med school, going to law school, you know, becoming a dentist, whatever. I'm trusting this process and I love it so much, and I'd rather go on this very uncertain journey and be fulfilled in what I'm doing than do something with a set path and always wonder what my life could have looked like. I want to know a couple of things on why I was so dead set on San Diego after visiting the East Coast. So I didn't like the East Coast as much as I thought I would. Baltimore was depressing, like I was saying earlier, but it was a little too fast paced on the East Coast, I noticed, but then LA was a little too slow. I just wanted something that was in the middle. But every time I came down to San Diego, I think it was the best of both worlds because downtown is a little more fast paced, and I think central San Diego's as well, versus, you know, how slow LA was. It had the hustle of New York City, but San Diego is such a chill place. And what's cool about this area is there's no old money here. The people who have money are very humble and they've all worked very hard for it, which is a big difference from major cities like New York City and Los Angeles, because there's so much old money there and ungrateful folks, and you just feel like you can never catch up. People don't have the nicest things here, but they're happy in life. And that's something that also came full force after I visited Mexico. I just feel like I got so much backlash, you know, for living a debt-free life and, you know, my car's paid off, but I don't have the nicest things. But then I don't have all these issues, you know, that most people have. And, you know, I'm not getting all this help, or I'm not pulling from a trust fund. So it just feels good that I'm very confident in my path in life. And I'm just happy with where everything's at. Now we're briefly going to get into part 3. I'm going to get into this into another episode a little bit more, but I'm just going to go on, you know, kind of a brief rant. After moving out, the cost of living was the biggest culture shock to me. I didn't realize how quickly food went bad and how much you have to clean your house as an adult. You guys, I have 3 roommates, including me. One of them is never home. The other one is home half the time, and then I'm always home. But I swear I clean that place every 2 days. I take out the trash every other day, it feels like. And groceries, I swear, go bad in 3 days. It's crazy. Like, being an adult, you're just always so busy doing adult things. And then when you think everything has calmed down, another adult thing comes up and you have to deal with that. I did not see my house flooding and my passport expiring coming at the times that they did. And that was rough, you know, because you're trying to live your life, and then next thing you know, your roommate is sleeping in your bed with you because her room is completely ruined, which, yeah, being an adult is just crazy. I don't answer my phone sometimes because I'm just so caught up in everything that's going on. And then, like, my house floods, and then bam, I got to clock into work the next morning. You know, there's no time to think, or I'm studying for an exam, or I'm going out to LA for a weekend for a brand event. So it's very chaotic. And I also feel like I'm drowning sometimes because I do work so much and I go to school full time. And it's really sad when I come home from work and I don't have a shoulder to cry on because I am new in this city. You know, I'm the new girl. It's fun. Like, oh, I'm new in town. Like, take me around. I want to see everything. But I don't have a solid group of friends. I don't have a bestie out here, essentially. So it's tough in the ways I felt lonely. I've felt lonely in a very different manner than I ever did in LA because in LA, I always came home to my parents. I at least came home to my brother or my mom. But here I come home to myself. But that's what I've always wanted. And the more time I spent alone this summer is when I realized like this is the best thing for me. And this enables the most productivity, the most happiness and fulfillment. I think my 20s, I really just want to spend time alone. I mean, I still want to have friends. You know, I'm working on that right now, but working on kind of getting like a group of friends and getting more accustomed to social life here and going out regularly. Right now, I need to pay my bills and, you know, there's things that I have to tend to. I just wish I had more of a social life sometimes. It's just tough because I get so exhausted from work and I feel bad not fulfilling promises to go to parties or events, but sometimes you really need time to take care of yourself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And especially because of all the things that have happened this year, I think I need to give myself time to be sad sometimes because it's healthy to just feel the emotion and like fully process it and then move on with your life versus kind of processing it halfway and then it hinders at your daily life moving forward for the next 2 years. Like you never really got over it and healed from a very traumatic event. So I think I did heal from quite a bit of trauma that I went through this year, and it makes me have a better head on my shoulders moving forward in, you know, my studies and my new job. Oh my gosh, another point, I didn't write this on my laptop, but I wrote this in my journal. I had to surrender to my day job, which was such a first for me because I'm a Capricorn. I love working, but I really had to step back and remind myself I'm out here to do school and I can't let my grades slip. I didn't do very well on my first midterm, but it was very different from the ones I've taken in junior college. So, you know, it made me step back and put together those Quizlets, review my notes, listen to lectures for fun. And I had to take a little bit of time off of work and just, you know, lessen my availability because I'm here to do school. So now I'm going to be doing school a little bit more than work, but I'm going to be working doubles occasionally here and there just because I need to pay my bills. But during the week, I'm really focusing on just working. Mondays I usually work, but then Tuesday to Thursday, I don't work at all, so I can really focus and hone in on my studies. You guys, I'm really looking forward to the future and my life over the course of the next 2 years living here in San Diego. I love it so much. My heart has never been happier. It's really pushed my boundaries living here. I'm not going to lie, like being on my own for the first time, not having the comfort of my parents always at home. And I come home to myself, which is very different, but it's a feeling that I love because there's nobody telling me how to live my life. And I realized how much freedom and free will you really do have as an adult. And you have power over the way and the direction that your life is going. And there's nothing stopping you. You know, if you have a goal, if there's something you always want to do, go and do it now. Why? Why wouldn't you do it now? You know, we come up with all these excuses, but you don't want to turn into one of those people that I was talking about earlier with great ideas and you never act on them in life. And then you always wonder what could have happened. So my big takeaway here, you guys, is stay consistent and your life will turn into your dream life. You know, you just have to keep going. You have to push through it. It's just the grunt stage. Like a good career truly is built over the course of decades and not years. If you don't get somewhere in 2 years, okay, you have 50 more years to go. You know, like good, solid careers that make lifelong impact are built over a very long period of time. You just have to have patience. Like patience really is where it's at. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this podcast. I really hope you enjoyed tuning into the first episode. hearing a little bit of the drama and why I came down here. What got me so interested in San Diego, being at the internship, why I want to start a podcast now, my opportunities. And I love starting off my episodes with quotes because I'm such a quote girly. I always have a quote as my lock screen on my phone, and I think I have really good taste in quotes, and I just want to share them. Stuff that I read it, I'm like, wow, like this hit, this was so inspiring, So I always want to start my episodes with those. Stay tuned because I'm going to be posting twice a month after this. This first episode is debuting on my birthday, December 27th, and I hope you look forward to future episodes. I'm going to be having some guests on, which is very exciting. Friends far and near. I'm trying to set up video interviews and whatnot. I have a couple people in LA, San Diego. There's just so much. But I'm also going to be doing solo episodes because I want some variety. And it's also really hard to get people to pull up just because schedules change, people get sick. It's tough to, get everything down. But yeah, I'm looking forward to everything. I'm very grateful to be able to record here at the Backdoor Studio for free. I don't have to pay for any of this equipment. So yeah, remember to keep chasing the dream, and I'll see you guys next time.